Excellent. Well, let's continue our program. We're going to be discussing the import and export or transportation, a behind-the-scenes look at major players throughout Florida. Leading the discussion is a good friend of mine, Jeremy Larkin, who is the CEO of NAI Miami in Fort Lauderdale. Jeremy is an accomplished broker with more than $1 billion in leasing and sales transactions of more than 5 million square feet of space. Jeremy prides himself on his attention to key details on his mission to see that his clients thrive in the real estate space that best suits their needs and expands their business opportunities. Welcome, Jeremy and panelists. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Before I get started, my team was fortunate and kind enough to book this event on my wedding anniversary. Fortunately, my wife has shown up today. Thank you very much for coming. Happy anniversary, love. It's been 16 great years. And so before we get started, I will let the panel introduce themselves, starting with Sherry. Automobiles.
Good morning, everyone. Stacy Miller. I am the Florida Department of Transportation District 6 Secretary. I've been with the Department of Transportation a very long time. I'm not going to mention how many decades. That's embarrassing. But I lead our office here in South Florida, and we cover Miami-Dade and Monroe counties.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Basil. I'm the Deputy Director of Miami-Dade Aviation Department. Relatively new with the department. I've been there for about 2 years. Previously, I was at Miami-Dade's Seaport. At the airport, I'm responsible for our real estate and administration divisions.
Good morning, everybody. Ben Porritt with Brightline Trains. I know Jay said earlier that a lot of you spent a couple hours in your car from West Palm to Miami. We have the solution. We'll cut that time in half. So.
One of our Orlando owners came down yesterday on Brightline.
I'd love to hear it. I love it.
And I now go to lunch up in Palm Beach to meet friends and attorneys. Take the Brightline up, take the Brightline back. So thank you.
Great advertising.
So first question, Basil. MAI is growing in popularity, running out of space. What's the plan for the next 5, 10, 20 years to accommodate cargo and passenger traffic?
So I have a couple of slides, and I'll get through them as quickly as I can. Just to talk about our capital plan. The mayor was here earlier, and she talked about how the local economy recovered as quickly as it did, one of the fastest recovering economies. And the airport was actually one of those as well. We're the fastest growing airport since 2019, since we came out of COVID. Last year, we hit 50 million passengers. We've got a projected 2% growth, so we're planning our capital program for 77 million passengers in 2040. We're at about 3 million tons of cargo. We're planning for 5 million in that year as well. So just a couple of quick stats. I talked about the 2% growth, in our passenger volume, but we are, and our director likes to run these stats off so that everybody's aware of where we stand in the airport game. But the 8th busiest airport in the United States and the 14th busiest in the world for total passengers. So that's our Miami airport. The 7th busiest for international cargo. So as we put our capital plan together, we're planning for that continued growth that we have. So just really quickly, this is an overview of our capital plan. Our board approved in 2019 a $7 billion project, a $7 billion capital program that will take us through all of those needs through the 2040 year that we talked about. And just for major points, the South Terminal expansion is a $740 million program. 6 new gates that will be domestic and international, additional concessions, additional accessibility to the rest of the airport, really to help to accommodate the additional growth. If you all have been to the airport, you know that there are some issues with connectivity from Terminal D to the south and central terminals. So one of our projects, which is in the $800 million range, is a central terminal redevelopment program. So that will expand the hold areas, the concession areas, but it will also add a connection so that you will be able to walk from one end of the airport all the way through to the other, just in case you're on different airlines. So we're happy about that project. Even though it's 10 years out, we are happy to be in the planning stages for that program. And that's another image of the outside of the central terminal redevelopment. And the final one is, the final major project in the capital plan is our Concourse D expansion. For those of you all that fly regionally, if it rains outside, you get wet when you're going to your plane. We're trying to keep everybody dry in sunny South Florida. So this project will actually include closing in and creating those gates as contact gates. So in addition to that, and there's some smaller projects that are always the customer service oriented ones. We're refurbishing all of our restroom facilities, all of our passenger boarding bridges, all of the things that people touch on a regular basis, that all of our passengers touch. So those are also included in our capital program. So that's just kind of an overview.
Great. And by the way, for those who fly commuter, that's D60? That is D60. Know it well.
You spend a lot of time in Tallahassee.
I spend a lot of time in D60, yes.
Okay. Here's the next most important question all of us want to know. Freedom Park is now under construction. It's already tough to get to the airport without any other congestion. Soccer games, office buildings, retail, parkland for people to use. How is it all going to fit and be able to get to the airport?
That's a great question that I don't think any one partner has the answer to, right? So we're fortunate enough to have expressways that come directly into the airport. So we work with our expressway authority partners and the DOT to plan for traffic in the area. The developers of the soccer stadium are supposed to be putting together a traffic plan that is supposed to help to mitigate the traffic in the area. But you know, for the most part, we are relying on that program and also the increased use of transportation. We're fortunate enough to have the Metro Rail that comes directly to the Miami Intermodal Center, and you can connect to the terminal by train. So we encourage the use of that, and those are the things that we're trying to employ to mitigate the traffic in the area.
Okay, very good. Ben, we're going to you. All right. Orlando's open. You've already doubled the number of trains going on a daily basis. I think I read yesterday. What's next?
I love this question. So we just finished a $6 billion investment into the state of Florida. This is one of the boldest infrastructure projects in the country. And if you're not familiar with it, we're the first private company to enter the high-speed passenger rail space since Henry Flagler built the state of Florida on the East Coast. So it's a little bit like when you get married and like the second you walk out of the wedding, everybody starts asking, well, when are you going to have the baby? And you're like, man, we just got married. We just opened Orlando on September 22nd. It's been incredible. We've had a tremendous response, not just from the state, but from people globally. When I was there the day that the train opened, I met a couple from the United Kingdom who had flown over just to ride the first train from Orlando to Miami, which I found amazing. And then I met somebody from New Mexico and California. And so there are train aficionados, but there are also, people who just need it to conduct business. So we just opened that. Stabilizing the business is the most important piece over these next 2 to 3 years. But we do have a 5-year commitment with regions in the Treasure Coast. So, Martin County, St. Lucie County, to put a station in there. We're going to begin working on that. And then there's always Tampa, which is kind of a vision that we have to connect the next major metro area, which once we get to Tampa, we would have 75% of the state's population would have access to a Brightline train station. So those are the two things that we'll turn our attention to next. And not that it necessarily matters for this crowd, but we do have a project that we'll put a shovel in the ground on in the next several months that will be the first true high-speed rail system in the country between Las Vegas and the Los Angeles region. So we'll start building that before the end of the year.
All right. Now on to automobiles. Put all the pieces together.
Well, I'm just going to remind everyone, the Florida Department of Transportation changed its name many years ago. We're not about roads only. We actually support all sorts of different types of transportation. We actually help fund Miami International Airport, Port Miami. We partner with Brightline. I'm actually a board member of the South Florida Rail Transportation Authority, so Tri-Rail. We support Tri-Rail. I am a member of the Greater Miami Expressway Agency, which is another entity. So it's all encompassing. We actually also help pay for Space Florida, not a South Florida issue, but we assist in travel to space. So DOT is definitely not just roads and bridges. With that, however, most of our focus is obviously on roads and bridges. And for those of you who drove here, thank you. You probably did experience driving through the 395-836 interchange, which is a little behind schedule, but we are still moving forward. That will ultimately be an amazing signature structure and 33 acres of open space in downtown Miami Overtown, which is incredible. Essentially, think of it as New York's Central Park right here in downtown Miami. So we're very excited about that. We've also just taken bids and have awarded a project to improve the Golden Glades interchange, another sticking point for most of us in our commutes. That is a 7-year project, it is starting next year, but we will finally connect that missing link between 826 and I-95, which has been, I think, a sticking point for most of us for many years. So bear with us. When we work on our facilities, think about having 350,000 people driving in your office every day. So it takes a little more for us to complete a project. These are not greenfield projects. They're active roadways that require us to maneuver around our users. So in addition to that, the Florida Department of Transportation is working with Miami-Dade and our transportation planning organization here in Miami-Dade and what's called the SMART program. That's the Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit Program. That's a number of corridors that will essentially bring alternative, non-roadway type transportation, extension of Metro Mover, extension of Metro Rail, actually partnering with Brightline and FEC to bring commuter service onto the FEC tracks as a complement to Tri-Rail in the Tri-County area. We have bus-only lanes that are planned for Flagler and several other facilities. So we're very excited because here in South Florida, we have to layer all of these different types of improvements together. There is no one singular solution. We are a built-out community here in South Florida. So saying we're going to widen a lot of roadways will actually disrupt a lot of real estate because we'd have to purchase a lot of real estate in order to do that. So we're actually going up, and we're going with alternative forms of transportation. That is not to say we do not have any roadway improvements. We have what's called project development and environmental studies planned for most of I-95, for 195, for I-75, and for 826 South, which is the Palmetto South projects. So the extension of those managed lanes going all the way down to US 1. In addition, we have resiliency and preservation type projects. So we're going to rebuild Alton Road on Miami Beach. Extremely important. We're going to raise the road and really handle some of the drainage issues that have been plaguing Miami Beach for quite a while. We're also expanding Miami Gardens Drive, starting out west at I-75, moving towards the east, and that will assist in moving a lot of the traffic that's associated with some of the new development that's happening out right around the Miami Gardens Drive I-75 area. So we're very excited about that as well. A lot to be said. The department has its largest budget that we've ever had, over $18 billion this year. Here in District 6 in Miami-Dade and Monroe County, over $1.2 billion of projects being awarded this year in construction alone. Our overall program for the next 5 years statewide is about $55 billion. Here in Miami-Dade Monroe, it's about $4.5 billion. We do have some projects, although maybe not as important, but everyone travels to the Keys. You should know in our near term, in the late 20s, early 30s, we'll be replacing the Long Key Bridge, as well as the 7 Mile Bridge. So lots of construction in the area coming soon.
And if you've heard, if you were listening, a lot of real estate activity around every one of these projects. So lots of opportunities there. We've got time for 1 or 2 questions if there are any. Thank you very much. Appreciate the panel. Great information.